HARK, we are here. It is time for yet another episode of Star Wars Unlimited. I'm a little low energy this episode. I do apologize in advance. I am today's anxious millennial content producer. I've talked about it a little bit on Twitter, just continuous things popping up that make it difficult for me to accomplish goals without having issues that when I was 10 years younger would have absolutely punched myself in the face for having. They say that with age comes wisdom. My experiences with age has come the absolute destruction of the defenses you put up in your life. So take that lesson with you today. Anyway, back on the Star Wars train, we've got some previews to check out, inching ever closer to the release of Star Wars Unlimited here in a month, about a month. It's probably less than a month when the video actually comes out, but it should be fun. I apologize if you hear any noises. We have a new dog in our house. She runs around every once in a while, but hopefully my wife has her down just to relax while I record these things. So let's stop talking about my life because you don't care and start talking about Star Wars Unlimited because you do care about that. Our first preview comes by way of the Unlimited FFG Twitter account. We had two more double single aspect cards to be shown, and we are getting one of those double single aspects with this preview. And it's very interesting. It's a character that's interesting to have as an aspect as opposed to neutral, but we'll see what it means when we actually get to the card, which is we have Bendu, the one in the middle. 6 cost Vigilance ground unit, 4 power, 7 health, force creature. It has Sentinel on the body. On attack, the next non-heroism, non-villainy card you play this phase costs 2 less. This is a rare, number 56 out of 252 in SO. Bendu here holding a little, the bird that goes with Ahsoka. I forget the name of it, something owl. Previous to this in Star Wars Destiny, the Bendu is a battlefield that can be taken by either player. The neutrality of the character itself is on this on attack effect, which is very interesting if you can get the Bendu to stick, which you generally can. Him got a big butt. But if your next card that you play that's neither heroism or villainy would cost 2 less. There's not a crazy amount of good targets for this, but it is something to think up when you are playing your cards because there are a couple of decent, just straight neutral cards that you could play. Things like Entrenched, things like the Cargo Juggernaut, things like a card we'll show you later in the episode towards the end. There's some interesting decisions here. I don't think this enables a double Vigilance deck to be competitive, but I think it does enable a double Vigilance deck to be competent. And the reason why that is because it is a force creature. So adding on to the other force cards we have with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda and Luke and Kanan, this adds another force unit that can attach a Jedi lightsaber to it, can be targeted by It Binds All Things, all those other lovely things. It Binds All Things, another card you could play as a result of the Bendu. Very interesting design. I can see this actually putting in a lot of work in a double Vigilance Chewie deck because you want to survive as long as you can to flip Chewie, and then once Chewie's on the board, the Bendu can support that with a separate Sentinel, but also allow you to do things like heal and put shields on with other cards like Moment of Peace or Repair, so on and so forth. Future Ryback here. I wanted to go over really quick a case study of cards that are in double Vigilance or playable in double Vigilance that would benefit from the discount from the Bendu. So we're going to go ahead and quickly take a look at swdb.com. Recapping really quickly, Bendu, as we said, the next non-heroism, non-villainy card you play costs 2 less. And it is card, it's not unit or anything else. So Protector becomes free. Vigilance, this is a good choice, becomes 2. Surgical Dread, is free. Distant Patroller is free. Regional Governor is free. Cloud City Wing Guard comes down to a 1. Wilderness Fighter comes down to a 1. Baze Malbus, which we'll talk about later, comes down to 2. System Patrol Craft comes down to 2. Rugged Survivors to 3. Cargo Juggernaut to 4. Resilient for free, that's a really good one. Devotion for 2, I think that's also a good one. Entrenched to 0. Sorry, Devotion goes to 0. Entrenched goes to free. Moment of Peace, Repair, It Binds All Things, all go to free. Make It Opening goes to 1 cost. Takedown, one of the strongest events in the entire game, goes down to 2, which is insane. And then Vanquish itself goes down to 3. So I think your opportunity cost for putting cards into a Bendu deck, Vigilance, Protector, Devotion, Resilient, Entrenched, Moment of Peace, Repair, It Binds All Things, and Takedown are going to be your top choices. The Bendu is an interesting card. I don't see it seeing a lot of play initially, but once the game moves out of the aggro phase and into the mid-range and control phase, I think a lot more people will be looking to put Bendu in their deck And again, because it is double vigilance, it's not heroism or villainy, and it is force, this is one of those evergreen carry forward cards, because if double vigilance ever does become a good thing to play that is very good, you have that package of cards to be able to attach the extra force to the extra force interaction with the Bendu, whereas you may not have otherwise had that outside of that. So interesting card design. I like it. Moving on. We interrupt your regularly scheduled previews here for a preview that I missed last week. Props to Grant McEvoy for bringing this up to me, that I missed the Occupier Siege Tank as part of last week's previews. This came from the website, so that's one of the reasons why I missed it, because in the preview channel that has a lot of the previews stacked, there was no source for it, so it was just something that slipped my mind as it pertained to it. But also, it's because a lot of people haven't been talking about this card. It was almost a DOA when it was previewed. But we're going to take a look and talk about it anyway. We have here the Occupier Siege Tank, a 5-cost aggression ground unit, 5 power, 4 health, Imperial vehicle tank. It has grit, so for each damage it gets +1/+0. It is a common number 165 out of 252, I believe, in SOR. This image is courtesy of swdb.com. Utilizing that website mainly because my original source for it was not as good of a quality to be able to utilize, plus I couldn't also zoom into it. So just having problems with the pictures. But we have here this Occupier Siege Tank. It's okay. For 5 costs, you would expect something to do more, but realistically, this doesn't mesh with Keep Fighting. It doesn't mesh with Grand Inquisitor's effect. It doesn't really mesh with anything other than potentially throwing a hardpoint blaster module onto it, so because it is a vehicle and it will get that extra damage as well as the attack and health buff. Ultimately, though, there's a missed opportunity to have this tank work with other troopers or gain bonuses based upon the other units that are on your board rather than just solid grit. Also, the attack and health combination here, again, as before, is not very good. If it were a 3-7 or 3-6 instead of a 5-4, it would be more synergistic with previous strategies. There will be a lot of different things you can do with the Occupier Siege Tank, especially continuing to grow its damage output based upon the damage on it. But sadly, it does not have that. So that's why people are not talking about the Occupier Siege Tank. It is good art. You can see that little trooper head in there with the shore trooper helmet almost. So, but it is a card. It is playable. I don't think I would even run this in limited, honestly. If it's like the last card you possibly need to build your deck for sealed, sure. But this is one of those cards where I don't even think it's competent. I think it's just under what would be playable for any format. But who knows? Maybe somebody comes up with a strategy that breaks this in half. Maybe vehicles get future support. Maybe tanks get future support. Maybe there's something else in the future for Imperial. But as it stands right now, it's an expensive unit that doesn't do a lot. Our next previews come by way of Nelson All Over Cards. We've got 2 previews here, 1 unit, 1 absolutely bonkers event. We're going to check those both out. First, we're starting with the unit. We have here the Escort Skiff. This is a 4-cost command-only ground unit, 4 power, 4 health, underworld vehicle speeder. While you control another command unit, this unit gains ambush. So if you have another unit on the board, you play Escort Skiff, you can do the attack with ambush. This is a common, number 114 out of 252 in SOR. This is another one of those cards that gains a benefit for having another unit on the board that has the same style aspect as it. I think this Escort Skiff is actually pretty good. It might be a little understated for a 4-cost, but because it can potentially get ambush, plus other effects that base off of having command units come into play, such as Yularen healing your base, Escort Skiff is actually a very good card so long as you are running command and have a nice nexus of command units ready to go, because you can use this Escort Skiff to just slam into something you don't want to see anymore, especially if you don't care about losing it as well. Or if you have a Sentinel that's in the way of an attacker that you want to attack with and the Escort Skiff can defeat it, pop, there goes the Sentinel, or pop goes the Weasel. You need to finish something off that has a big attack that's coming at your face, but it doesn't have a whole lot of health. Boom, Escort Skiff. It's a pretty good card. It's a very good card. The art is also, again, incredible. There are some artists that are in the Star Wars Unlimited design space for card art that just really give everything they have for these pieces of art, and this is definitely one of them. You can pick out the details for this, the weak way, the Nikto that are around, the blaster shots that are coming off, the way the Desert Skiff specifically looks, just absolutely incredible. This is a very good draft card if you're in command. This is a very good constructed card if you're in command and need the ability to slam other things. There might even be an underworld strategy that comes to command in the next set, because we did see, I believe the Mercenary Company was underworld as well. Interesting designs. I like this escort skiff. I do anticipate this card seeing at least some amount of play in all formats. Our next card is a Vigilance event that is kind of bonkers. This is The Force is With Me. This is a 4-cost Vigilance Heroism Force event. Choose a friendly unit and give 2 experience tokens. If you control a Force unit, also give a shield token to the chosen unit. You may attack with the chosen units. This is an uncommon 55 out of 252 in SOR. I am on with the Force. The Force is with me. This is absolutely an insane card for 4 cost. It allows you to put experience tokens on it, and if you have a Force unit, it doesn't have to be a Force unit, but if you have a Force unit, give a shield, and then you can also attack. So if you've got an attack ready to go at the beginning of the round, and you want to get that extra 2 damage, or you want to get an extra effect based upon the attack, but you just need a little bit more to push it over, and you have the resources to play this card, The Force is With Me says, hey, have all this stuff and an attack. This is one of those really good types of cards that just does things. It does things that are necessary for the game to move forward, and these types of cards are always going to be some of the best cards in games that have these restrictive alternating action style turn systems. This is really good in Luke. This is going to be really good in any Force deck that is also able to run heroism. And I think it's a really good balancing decision to make it a heroism card and not a neutral card, because if it was a neutral card, this would make the Grand Inquisitor deck absolutely busted. All you need is the Force unit on the board to get all 3 of the effects. Even if you don't have the Force unit on the board, 2 extra power, 2 extra health, and an attack on a unit that is able to attack. Because again, it doesn't say you can do this with an exhausted unit. You have to do it with a unit that is a legal target for an attack. It does say you may, so technically you don't even have to, but you should. This card is going to put in work in decks that run Vigilance Heroism. So be on the lookout when you're playing against Luke and Chirrut decks, and it looks like they're not going to have a big attack coming, because the Force is with them and it will mess you up. Our next 2 previews come from a French website, which I'm going to butcher this name, but I believe it's pronounced Geekbecois. And they have 2 interesting cards here that are showcasing us some of the more advanced designs, one simpler design, one more advanced design, that are coming with the remaining cards that we know about Spark of Rebellion. So our first card is Cunning. And we have here the pigmen themselves, Gamorrean Guards, 4-cost Cunning only ground units, 4 power, 4 health, Underworld. While you control another Cunning unit, this unit gains Sentinel, similar to the Skiff. Common, 211 out of 252 in SOR. This is a fantastic card for Underworld, and I don't know that Boba needed this, but I think this definitely helps Boba. It will help Underworld when it comes down to it, because a lot of Underworld shenanigans are in Cunning, and being able to have a 4/4 Sentinel that just goes and says, hey, I'm here, you have to attack me while my boys are in town. That's just fantastic. This is a fantastic card. It's a competent card. It's common. It's going to be really good in any deck that runs Cunning. It's going to be really good in Limited if you have Cunning, so draft or sealed. This is just a good card. It's a good card. It's a competent card, and it's a card that's definitely going to see play, because that 4 spot is a little weird when it comes to the things that you're capable of doing. A lot of people are looking to play a 3-cost and a 1-cost or 2 2-costs. Gamorrean Guards is a good, decent, solid 4-cost card to be able to come out and say, hey, as long as these guys are around, bam, I got you. Our next card is for all my Thrawn homies out there. We have here Rook, Thrawn's Assassin, 5-cost command villainy ground unit, 3 powers, 6 health, Imperial. Shielded. When you play this unit, give a shield token to it. When this unit deals combat damage to a non-leader unit while attacking, defeat that unit. This is a rare, number 85 out of 252. Tailor-made for Energy Conversion Lab. If you're running Rook and you want to run a command base, you should be running Energy Conversion Lab. I will absolutely stand on the pedestal at the podium and say, this is a viable reason to play Energy Conversion Lab, because when Rook comes down and attacks with that ambush, as long as the enemy unit is not a leader and not shielded, it dies. Plain and simple. it's gone. Rook might defeat himself in the process, but if you're ambushing, you have a shield token, so you take no damage back. That's just insane. You can also play this as your last unit for a turn while your opponent's taking the initiative, or if you know your opponent's going to do something and then you play this, your opponent does their thing, and then you can take initiative. But Rook's survival is not necessarily an issue. It's the survival of the things on your opponent's side of the board. If you see Rook coming down to fight you, run. Just run. Figure out a way to either kill him, or which is going to take probably 2 forms of interaction in order to be able to defeat him, or just let your units die. Rook comes down to the ground arena, I'm going to space. See you, nerds. That's how much impact Rook has. He is vastly better than Traitorous. He is, I think, might be on par with Overwhelming Barrage. Thankfully, they share a cost. So in terms of playing 5 cost cards, you're only really going to be able to do that once per round. But oh boy. And if you're ramping, if you're ramping and Rook can come down or even earlier than normal, it's just mind-boggling. This card is so good. This card is so good. I would be willing to say that Rook is a 3 of in every command villainy deck because his ability is just that good. Our next card here comes by way of the Unlimited FFG Twitter account. This was a special surprise. We weren't expecting a card. I think players are still expecting the final leader to be revealed, which most people believe as the command villainy rare leader is going to be Emperor Palpatine. But we got a really neat card, a card that I think is actually fairly interesting in terms of gameplay, especially at its rarity, and it should be pretty cool to see what this character can do as a whole. We have here Baze Malbus, Temple Guardian, 4-cost Vigilance ground unit, 2 power, 5 health, Fringe, Grit, +1/+0 for each damage on it, and while you have the initiative, this unit gains Sentinel. It is an uncommon, number 65 out of 252 in SOR. In terms of his base stats as a 4-cost, you're probably not really happy with this. But in terms of what Baze can do, given the circumstances around him and things you can build to support him, which you're probably already doing if you're running something like Chariot, he's really good. This is also, hilariously enough, very good in Grand Inquisitor because he's got 2 power. And he's not heroism, he is neutral, which means he can go right into Grand Inquisitor. Grand Inquisitor can bark an order at him, and then all of a sudden he can smash into something else. Being able to have Sentinel while you have the initiative is also really cool because you can kind of showcase the plays that Baze can do depending on what your decisions are the round before and the round after. I like this card a lot. It's an uncommon. You're probably going to see a fair amount of it. I think that people who are focused on just the 2 power and 5 health are not really considering the potential that Baze Malbus has. I mean, if you're running heroism and Baze is ready, you can throw, and you have a force unit. I know this is a lot of things, but it's part of a card we talked about. The force is with me, Baze. He's now a 4/7, and if he's taking any damage, he's got more power, and he's attacking. And then if you're done with your turn, you take the initiative, and now he's got Sentinel, and your opponent's forced to attack and lose units in order to be able to clear him. Baze Malbus is very good. Our final preview for this week of coverage comes from the Unlimited FFG Twitter account. It is another double single aspect card, and this is a very interesting card that's probably going to pick up when set 3 comes out. But we have here General Krell, Heartless Tactician, a 5-cost double command ground unit, 5 power, 4 health, Force Jedi Republic. Each other friendly unit gains. When defeated, you may draw a card. He is a rare, number 105 out of 252 in SOR. For those of you that don't know, and I'm being very accurate about this, General Krell is a douchebag from the, I believe, 6th season of Star Wars The Clone Wars, the CG series, who effectively sacrificed the clones to gain ground in combat against the Separatists. He hated clones. He didn't think they were worthy of being the troops for the Galactic Republic, and they were sacrifices to be made upon the field of battle. So one of the ARC troopers, if I remember correctly, it was Echo, but it might have been Jesse. I can't remember. Y'all can look that up. Is the person who ends up killing Krell because he was a jerk. Anyway, point being, he's a douchebag. He is Force. That's a very relevant tag. However, he is Force in double command, which means currently there's no synergy. He is Jedi, which is not very relevant, but he is Republic. And I think when Republic comes out and has a big command strategy, this guy's going to be very useful because you can drop your clones and do the same thing. or other cheap units. Ran them into things, drop Sentinels, give Sentinel to things that you can as a double command deck. Because he is double command, he can be run in villainy or heroism, because the heroism, there's no tax for him there. You will need a command leader and then a command base to play him without the resource cost downside. He's removable by a couple of different common removal spells, but maybe by the time it becomes relevant, they won't be as common, or you will get some extra protection, or one of the leaders in future sets will be able to make him a lot better. I think this card is really good. It's actually depressingly good because he was such a douchebag, and because his arc was so sad. Seeing him actually be a viable card makes me upset, but it makes sense. It's thematic. This is a very thematic card that does thematic things. If you are running double command right now, you could run him because you are gaining cards off of anything of yours that has been defeated. You just have to protect Krell himself, so that way your opponent doesn't go, I don't want you to draw more cards, and then kill it immediately, which is exactly what you should do. Any card drawing effect that your opponent has on the board that doesn't cost them a bunch of resources, you need to kill that ASAP. Krell, solid card, okay middling stat line, but that ability, other friendly units gain when defeated, you draw a card, that is strong. Card draw is always relevant, and Krell is going to be seen somewhere. Maybe even in the double command Hera deck or a double command Harkin deck. Who knows? Maybe relevant in a future leader that we should be seeing here in the next couple of weeks. Who knows? Before we head out for the day, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the garbage rollers. I know there are other design interviews, and I should have been posting those before, but whenever developer insight comes up, that's something that we should all really be checking out. So over on the Garbage Rollers website, link in the description below, we have this lovely interview with senior designer Tyler Parrott, and he gives a lot of cool information based upon what's going on, questions asked by the garbage rollers themselves, by the community, all kinds of different interesting things that are going here. It's a really good interview. You should go check it out yourself. I won't cover it here simply because this is their content, and you should be checking out the garbage rollers. You should be checking out all of the Star Wars Unlimited creators, but specifically garbage rollers written website content is actually really good, really clean. Kevin over at the Roll On Gaming is working with a website that does written content. It's actually very clear and smooth. Tower Number 9, same thing. I believe he's working with Fifth Trooper. Kevin working with Deployer Leader Gaming, and Garbage Rollers have their own website. All fantastic. And I think written content is desperately needed in card games as a whole, because not everybody has the time or effort to be able to go and watch a video, or not everybody is a learner in hearing things and watching other people do stuff. They want to read about everything. So props to written content out there. If you know of written content that should be showcased to the rest of the world, put a link to that in the comments below, because you should be commenting, and that will give us a nice list of things to appreciate people who do the archaic, stone and chisel writing on the wall type thing, which I know old and busted, and people love the new hotness of 15-second TikTok videos, but F all that. Written content for the win. Anyway, that is all that we have for this week. Lots of really neat previews. That last preview came in at the 9th hour, 11th hour, 12th hour, whatever, and really showcased very interesting design and very interesting future proofing in terms of what cards can do now, that cards will be able to do later, and that cards will be able to do once their full strategies come into play. So it was a fun, really cool grip of things to check out. I really enjoyed everything that was here this week. Links in the description to all of that stuff below. But that is all we have for this week. Like I said, we're inching ever closer, ever closer, ever closer. We have a little bit more than a month. I think I said less than a month. I think it's a little bit more than a month, because this video comes out on the 31st. So the 8th is like 34 days. I don't know, something like that. You all can figure it out. You have calendars, don't you? You have phones. Like the video. Comment your thoughts down below. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on all my social medias at RybackStun. Thank you very much for joining me, everyone. I am very excited. I want cards in hand. I want to be able to play games, and it should be very interesting seeing what's going to happen for Star Wars Unlimited going forward, because the future, as always, is unlimited, and I will see you in the stars.